I think that every person, like every human being, has a story in them. I mean, they have, not everybody's a writer, or everybody could express, but we all have a story. And I think like there's something so healing when I go to book signings and things about people being able to share their story, you know, share that, you know, look, this happened, and, you know, it happens. I mean, everybody dies. Everybody's going to have their days of bereavement. People get ill. Yeah. Young people get ill. I mean, it happens in all ages, and there's just such a beautiful healing that happens when you can take somebody, like holding their hand, and you know, like I knew that when I wrote this that I was going to be holding a lot of people's hands as they traveled the same journey in their own way, and that gave me such that helped me. In the second year, I wrote this in the second year of my grief. It helped me to know that everything that I had been through and that I had suffered through was going to do something to kind of hold a candle or a light for somebody else.
My impulse was, you know, when I started writing The Middle Place, self-publishing had just sort of exploded, and there was this very obvious, clear way that I could publish something, quote unquote, and hand it to my father, and that was my goal. And that was enough for me. This image, the image that I was walking towards, marching towards, you know, zombie-like in the night, was me standing in the kitchen of my childhood home and saying, Greenie, this is what it has been to be your kid. I'd never get to say this to you. You know, I'd never be able to get through the sentences. You'd never listen to me long enough for me to say it. You'd just be like, Lovey, I love you too. So that's what I wanted. And I thought because of this self-publishing thing that I could do that. And that felt like enough for me, like it was like a little homemade project, you know, it was like arts and crafts.
I haven't read this chapter because mostly every time I read it, I still get very annoyed, but I'm going to read a part of it tonight. It's the things people say to you when you're in grief. And when I had this edited, my editor said, you know, you have to be a little bit softer. You know, people don't know what to say. You have to remember people don't know what to say. And that's very true, you know. However, I came to a really strong conclusion when I was in very deep grief, and that was that the best thing that anybody could do was to not say anything at all, but just to offer their love and their support, and to look in my eyes and just say, you know, I know what I don't know what you're going through. I can't imagine, but I just want you to know I think about you every day. And that's what would really help me. That was what really resonated with me. Grief healing happens behind closed doors, and it's a quiet time. Much of the time I was content to stay home. I could be with my feelings. Early on, when Richard's presence was so strong there, I had a difficult time leaving. There were reminders all over the house that just weeks ago he was still here. I couldn't pull myself away. I also knew not to minimize this tragedy or to try to set it aside in a little corner neatly packaged. And I understood that when people said, it's all going to be okay and you'll see that soon, what they really meant was that they hoped it would soon be better for them. I came to see that people can't look too long at grief, that its untidy, ungovernable side creates awkwardness. Inevitably, I wanted to go out into the world again. I wanted to, and I had to. There was grocery shopping to do. I arranged to meet friends for coffee or a walk. Eventually, I emerged from my protective cocoon for longer and longer stretches. The girls needed things. There were school events and soccer games to attend. I needed time to get away from grief, to enjoy the pleasure of ordinary activity and simple conversation with community neighbors and shopkeepers. It was time to feel the sun burn through the blue air.
There's a certain space around crisis in which things happen that could not happen under any other circumstance. Things are said and things are corrected that just can't happen in the normal space of our lives. There's a reason for crisis, or if not a reason, there's a lot to be gained from it. And there's things that you can learn in that era that you can't learn other places. And then I happened to be talking to this guy who's a hang glider, and I don't really know anything about hang gliding, but he said, I said, I don't even know how it works. Like, there's seriously no motor. And he said, no, you just fly from thermal to thermal looking for lift. And I thought, I have no idea what that really means, but it's like resonating so deeply with me. And I felt like saying, don't we all? And he said, you can't fly on a blue sky day. You'll just sink out. You need turbulence to get altitude. And I thought, that's sort of what I'm talking about. So that's the gist of the book. It's written as a letter to my kids, and it centers around these 3 stories. But it also gave me the opportunity to apologize publicly to them for all of my failings as parent. So I'll probably be forgiven a lot sooner than any of you will be.
You too can write a letter, though.
That's right. Every now and then there are victories, which is to say moments when I let go, when I set aside all instruction and we dance. I remember the first time Dad played Van Halen for you. He'd just gotten home from work. It was a Friday, so he was in an extra good mood, and we were goofing around in the living room, and he said, wait, I just thought of something. And a moment later, Panama started. Georgia, you were on the coffee table, and about halfway through the song you said to Dad, with the signature earnestness of a 3-year-old, I could listen to this all day. He tells this story a lot. I think it validates something for him, like you two have something crucial in common, or just a tacit gut-level esteem for 80s arena rock. He turned the volume way up, and when the song said jump, we jumped. You girls couldn't believe how rowdy we were being, and I thought, they'll remember this. Someday they'll be lying around on a dorm room floor drinking Miller Lite and picking pepperonis off a cold pizza and say, our family, we used to have dance parties, and my dad would play the music so loud we couldn't hear each other talk.